Let's bring in Art Laffer, a former economic advisor to President Ronald Reagan. He said that on this network earlier this week, Art, that the single biggest global story right now is the economic boom happening in this country. You agree?
I totally agree with that, Sandra. By the way, good job last night. I think I'm becoming a Sandra Smith groupie. But yes, he's completely correct. I mean, seeing this recovery, I mean, when you think about it, you know, it's a huge, huge story about people getting jobs, going off poverty, no longer needing food stamps, all of that stuff. It's the miracle of miracles, and it's a story that's not being played as much as it should be. And Larry Kudlow is completely correct on that story.
So he, on this program, speaking to Bill and I, suggested that 4.1% economic growth that we had in the last quarter is sustainable. I mean, that would really be something. When you crunch the numbers, do you think that's possible?
Well, it's surely possible. I can tell you we have a long way to go on the participation rate. It can go up much higher. We have a long way to go on average hours. It can go up a lot higher. And we have a long way to go on productivity growth, which can go up a lot higher as well. So my view is that it's really possible for the next 8 or 10 years. It's possible to get this type of growth to bring us back to the standard of living we were living at when Clinton left office and we had the disaster of W and Obama. He can bring us back to that level of standard of living. Now, whether it will happen or not, as Larry said, it's all policies oriented. Policies really matter. Tax cuts, sound money, free trade, minimal regulations, and spending restraint. All of that matters, and this administration can do it, can really set us off on the launch pad. And I'm really so proud of Larry and the job he's doing there in the White House.
Well, there was another exchange with Larry Kudlow and the president on China, Larry. And Larry was talking about the struggles that China faces today. And I don't have to tell you that for a long while there, it was all about Chinese economic growth. Whether you looked at the grain market or the energy market, it was China's buying, China's buying. This exchange shows that's not really what they're seeing right now. Watch.
Well, it's not.
China was on a one-way road to becoming the biggest economy and all of that, and we were just going to be left behind. And I want them to do well. But how are we doing versus China?
Mostly, I think investors are moving out of China because they don't like the economy, and they're coming to the USA because they like our economy. I would just say right now their economy looks terrible.
You seeing the same thing, Art?
I sure am. I wrote a paper about 2 weeks ago on the fragility of China. If you'll remember, China for 50 years grew much, much faster than the U.S., but it started at a very low base, Sandra. Even today, at real GDP per adult, China is about 1/8 of the U.S. And what Xi is doing is just a huge mistake. This is not the battle he wants to fight. He should stand down and talk to Trump and get this deal done, because it doesn't help China to have them be so protectionist. They need to work with us to get free trade. It will launch China into being more prosperous. I love China. I think they're a great country. I think they're one of the best trading partners for the U.S. But Xi is doing a very, very big mistake for his country and not sitting down with Trump and getting a great deal and getting it going.
I'm not going to have time because we got so into it to ask you or to read this tweet from the president, but he's talking about going to a 6-month reporting system for corporations. He says he's going to address this with the SEC. Would you be a fan of that? Twice a year reporting by U.S. corporations?
For some companies, I think that makes a lot of sense. For other companies, I think you need to keep it much more closely aligned. If you're on the board of directors, and I'm on a lot of boards, you want to follow companies closely, some of them, and some you don't need to follow that closely.
Fascinating stuff. The quarterly earnings season could go by the wayside in every 6 months.
Go by the wayside.
We'll see where that goes. Art Laffer, thank you very much.
Meanwhile,
say hello to Bill for me.
Hey, Art.
Hello, Bill.
How are you, pal? Nice to see you. Have a great weekend. Another big economic